Welcome. We are just honored and delighted to see you here today. I'm Tezekiah Gabriel, and that beautiful music that you heard was from our composer, musician, peace builder, Gary Malcolm. Thank you, Gary. It's called The Science of Love. There are a lot of thanks to go around today. And first of all, we'd like to thank the Jubitz Family Foundation for supporting this nuclear disarmament work. Also, Reverend Becky Suzik, who provides, among her many other talents, provides our tech today for us and for so many other beautiful programs and efforts. And then last but not least, Renord Yanni, who is the director of our nuclear disarmament program here at Pathways to Peace. Today, we are embarking on a journey together, a journey that we hope will continue beyond our time together. It has been said that love is the sacred activism of our time, binding all hearts together, and that hope is an act of rebellion. In our journey today, we lift up our love for all humanity and our hope for the future. And we remember together these horrific acts of violence. And we shout together, never again. Before we begin, let's together take a moment of silence, a moment of grace, as we remember, and more importantly, we lift up those survivors in love, and we envision a world free of nuclear weapons. Let us take that moment of silence now. Thank you. And now let us carry that love for humanity, that hope for the future, and that vision into this important program. It is my honor and delight to turn the floor over to the director of the Pathways to Peace Nuclear Disarmament Program, Renord Yanni. Renord is an incredible human being. He has been with Pathways to Peace for more than several years as a youth representative to the United Nations, and the coordinator, and then the director, and of course the founder of our nuclear disarmament program. Renord has been honored with many opportunities and awards, and is a credible advocate and activist for nuclear disarmament, known throughout the UN and beyond I'm delighted to turn the floor over to you, Lenore. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Hezekiah. I really appreciate your opening remarks. And we want to thank the Gibbets Foundation for supporting our event today. I want to say hello to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for our event, Nuclear Disarmament for Humanitarian Needs, Empowering Individuals and Cities. As Hezekiah mentioned, I'm the Director for Nuclear Disarmament Advocacy and Research at Pathways to Peace, and I will be your event moderator. Today, we honor the survivors of the atomic bombings in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Japan, and we will have a dynamic group of speakers that will share more about their current efforts to utilize disarmament to support humanitarian needs and establish stronger nuclear policy. During my own visit to Hiroshima, I learned from survivors and the approach of the Hiroshima Organization for Global Peace that's inclusive of the humanitarian impact, security, and sustainability. Since nuclear weapons can pose an existential crisis or nuclear winter, it is critical to understand that they can cause global temperatures to drop, a mass food shortage, and a financial system collapse. In our current state of global affairs, there is a large imbalance when it comes to prioritizing military defense spending before human needs. And this is reflected within our governments, corporations, the banking system, and educational institutions. In 2024 alone, all nuclear-armed states have spent over $100 billion on nuclear arsenals. That marks a 32% increase from $68 billion within the past 5 years. According to the U.S. Congressional Budget Office, the United States is projected to spend nearly $1 trillion over the next 10 years on nuclear weapons between 2025 until 2034. This is absolutely unacceptable, and it reflects the false idea that nuclear deterrence is necessary for global security. And this idea has also been shown through the increase of military presence, nuclear weapon sharing programs, and countries joining nuclear alliances such as NATO in Europe. Russia has decided to extend their nuclear sharing programs by having their nuclear weapons stationed in Belarus. And Poland has also expressed their interest to host U.S. nuclear weapons. The war in Ukraine and the Middle East have sparked a larger nuclear arms race with no reductions in place or any multilateral arms control agreements between nuclear states. In order for banks or financial institutions to establish divestment policies from any weapon of mass destruction, it must first be globally deemed as controversial. Thankfully, this has been achieved after the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons, TPNW, was established under international law in 2021. The TPNW has created a new global norm that establishes nuclear weapons as illegal, and it prohibits the purchase or financing of nuclear weapons for signatory states. The treaty has been regarded as a humanitarian disarmament treaty because it requires states to provide victim assistance for those that have been affected by the use or testing of nuclear weapons. Financial divestment is necessary to achieve a world free of nuclear weapons, and I encourage activists and consumers to review the investment policies of their financial institutions and to urge them to divest from nuclear weapon manufacturers. Besides the economic factors, the role of cities is important in achieving nuclear disarmament. Cities are the largest targets for nuclear attack since they carry the highest populations, significant government facilities, industrial centers, and military installations. At Pathways to Peace, I have worked with 18 Albanian mayors, including the capital's mayor from Tirana, to join the Mayors for Peace network in support of nuclear disarmament and the TPNW. And this has led to a new milestone of 1/3 of all Albanian cities that have joined, and they've pressured the national government to sign the treaty. And this was an important step forward in raising awareness of the TPNW within local government. Mayors for Peace is a nonpartisan global network of over 8,500 municipalities that holds consultative status within the United Nations Economic and Social Council. And since its establishment, Mayors for Peace has expanded its membership and worked in solidarity with its member cities to call for the realization of a world free from nuclear weapons and lasting world peace. I want to encourage everybody here to have their own mayor to join the network and to request that they write to Congress or your Ministry of Foreign Affairs to join the TPNW. And our hope today is to have everybody here and everyone else who will view this conference empowered, to have individuals, cities, to become more proactive for nuclear disarmament and peace. And so I have the honor to now preview a short documentary of August Again. And then we will introduce our distinguished panel of speakers. Thank you.
이 아들을 위해서라도 그게 꽃이라면 어쨌든 꽃들을 제대로 피우진 않았지만 그래도 제 인생이 있잖아요. 그래도 사는 날까지는 이겨지고 꾸겨지더라 해도 또 밟힐지라도 일어나는, 또 넘어질지라도 일어나는 그런 희망 포기와 그 생명력.
이 잔인한 삶을 인류가 또다시 반복되어서는 아니 될 것입니다.
As our thematic discussions earlier this week outlined, any testing or use of nuclear weapons by accident, miscalculation or design would cause immense human suffering and environmental degradation.
미국이 히로시마와 나가사키에 토한 원자폭탄으로 10만 명이 넘는 한국인이 피폭되었습니다.
제 소원이 그거였습니다. 80년 동안 말도 못한 채 참아오고 억누르고 살아온 것을 여기에서 전부 토해내고 갈 수가 있고 반드시 해국고 전쟁 없는 장래가 되리라고 꼭 믿습니다. 그것을 확인할 수 있었습니다. 이 자리를 빌어서. 내년에 초대해 주신다면 날개를 달고 날라옵니다.
우리가 왜 한양대학교의 이제 코드 조사라든지 그런 것들이 왜 간절한지를 지금 제가 이제 우리 아들이 이제 지금 이러고 있으니까 작은 아들한테 혹시라도 짐이 될까봐 몸에 짐이라도 덜어주기 위해서 내가 지금 활동하는 것 중 하나도 아들이 2, 3세가 이제 특별법 개정이 되어서 우리가 인정을 받게 되면 지금 복지관에도 이어서 들어갈 수가 있잖아요.
Thank you. Thank you for reviewing and looking at this preview of this documentary. I recommend everybody to see the complete version. Now we have the honor to have our first speaker, Miss Jung-Soon Park, who was born in Nagoya, Japan in 1934 to Korean migrant workers. She was 12 years old when she survived the atomic bombing. Ms. Park has been a passionate redress activist who has spoken publicly in Korea, Japan, and the United States to advocate for human rights and compensatory justice on behalf of atomic bomb survivors. She will serve as a plaintiff at the International People's Tribunal on the U.S. atomic bombings in November 2026 in New York. Leading legal scholars in the fields of international law will serve as presiding judges at the tribunal, which seeks restorative justice and human rights for Korean atomic bomb victims affected by Japanese colonial and the U.S. atomic bombings, and for all victims of nuclear violence by holding the United States responsible for the deployment of atomic bombs. So it is our pleasure to introduce Ms. Jung-Soon Park, who has provided a video testimony.
핵무기 폐기를 위한 국제적인 행사에서 증언을 하게 되어 영광스럽게 생각합니다. 한국 원폭 피해자 1세 박정순입니다. 올해 제 나이 92세입니다. 저는 1934년 일본 나고야에서 태어났고 1945년 히로시마 원폭 투하 당시 저는 12살 초등학교 5학년이었습니다. 우리 아버지는 지인 소개로 일본 나고야에 있는 공장에서 일을 했습니다. 나고야에 있는 아버지를 따라 어머니와 나머지 가족은 1932년에 일본으로 건너갔습니다. 그 당시에는 일제의 식민지 수탈로 하루하루 먹고 살기가 어려워 우리 가족처럼 일본으로 건너간 사람이 무척이나 많았습니다. 일본으로 끌고 가서 광산이나 군수공장에서 강제 노동을 시키는 경우도 허다했습니다. 전쟁이 계속되면서 아버지는 공장에서 더 이상 일을 하기 어려워졌습니다. 그러다 히로시마에 있는 지인이 한국 사람이 많이 있는 군수 공장에 가면 밥은 굶지 않는다고 하여 1943년에 아버지 먼저 히로시마로 갔습니다. 어머니와 함께 남은 가족은 1945년 5월경에 히로시마 우지코시조로 이사를 갔습니다. 이곳은 복심지에서 약 2km 떨어진 곳입니다. 그곳은 한국인 집단 불락이었습니다. 1945년 8월 6일 어느 때와 같이 아버지는 아침 일찍 군수공장으로 출근하고 어머니는 식당에 나가실 준비를 하고 있었습니다. 우리 형제들은 모두 집안에 있었습니다. 공습 정보가 울렸지만은 항상 잦은 공습 때문에 언제나 있던 일로 여겼습니다. 그런데 갑자기 번개불처럼 눈부신 빛이 비쳤습니다. 빛이 비치더니 바람이 불고 온 세상이 진동하듯 엄청난 복음이 울리더니 집 전체가 흔들리면서 한순간에 와르르 무너져 버렸습니다. 무너져 내린 천장과 기둥은 우리 가족을 덮쳤습니다. 울부짖는 비명소리와 필사로 기어 나오려는 아수라장 속에서 어머니는 자식들을 하나씩 꺼내 주었습니다. 저는 무너진 기둥에 뒤통수가 깨지면서 머리에서 피가 흘렀습니다. 허리도 함께 다쳐 지금까지 평생 허리 통증을 가지고 있습니다. 나중에 나이 먹고 엑스레이를 찍어보니 허리뼈가 어긋났다고 합니다. 무너진 집 밖으로 나오니 동네 사람들이 소리 지르며 울부짖고 있었습니다. 길에는 쓰러진 사람, 죽은 사람, 화상을 입고 피 흘리는 사람들이었습니다. 다 모두가 어디로 달리고 있었습니다. 우리도 겨우 수습해서 동네 사람들과 같이 대나무밭을 향해 달려갔습니다. 그곳에는 피해를 입은 이웃들이 모여 있었습니다. 히로시마 전체가 멸망했구나 생각했습니다. 대나무밭에 모인 사람들 중에 온전한 사람은 거의 없었습니다. 피를 흘리며 아비규환 속에서도 살아남았다는 것에 조금이라도 안도를 하는 것 같았습니다. 아버지는 하루빨리 히로시마를 떠나 귀국하는 방법을 알아보았습니다. 순서가 밀려 1946년 음력 설 4, 5일 전에 시모노세키에서 연락사를 타고 귀국할 수 있었습니다. 제대로 된 배편이 없어 귀국하는 것도 얼마나 불안하고 고통스러운지 모릅니다. 우리 가족은 아버지, 어머니 고향인 충남 예산으로 가게 되었습니다. 가족 형편은 너무나 어려웠습니다. 당시 미 군종은 조선인들을 조기 귀국시키면서 1인당 1000엔 이상 갖고 가지 못하게 했다고 합니다. 그 돈은 가족이 살아갈 집을 마련하기는커녕 겨울 동안 먹을 식량을 구하기에도 턱없이 부족한 것이었습니다. 시골에서는 아무리 살려고 발버둥 쳐도 살 길이 막연했습니다. 저는 일본에서 태어나 줄곧 일본에서만 생활했기에 한국말을 전혀 할 줄 몰랐습니다. 일본에서는 한국 사람이라고 차별받고 무시받았는데 고국에 와서도 주변에서도 외놈이라며 우리 가족을 멸시하는 이야기를 들어야 했습니다. 저와 제 언니는 한국말을 잘 알지도 못하고 살아가기가 너무나 어려워 다시 일본으로 재입국하려고도 했습니다. 그러다 가족을 위해 방직 공장에 취직을 하여 생활비를 벌었습니다. 하지만 돈이 넉넉하지 않아 원폭 후유증으로 고생하시는 어머니와 아버지를 병원에 한 번 모시고 가지 못했습니다. 원폭 투하 당시 임신 중이셨던 어머니는 1946년 3월에 아이를 사산하고 계속 병고에 시달렸습니다. 고동도 불편하시고 소화장애가 생겨 식사를 제대로 하지도 못하고 먹으면은 토해냈습니다. 어머니는 모든 게 다 원폭 탓이다 라는 말을 혼자서 입버릇처럼 했습니다. 아버지도 피폭 후유증으로 제대로 된 일을 할 수가 없었고 나날이 상해가는 몸에 세상을 원망하며 술로 하루를 보낼 수밖에 없었습니다. 미국이 원폭을 투하하지 않았다면 우리 어머니 아버지가 이렇게 고생하시지도 일찍 돌아가시지도 않았을 겁니다. 너무나 억울하고 원통합니다. 저는 피폭 후유증 때문에 지금도 매일 침을 맞지 않으며 움직일 수가 없습니다. 저뿐 아니라 제 동생도 당도암, 심장병 등 고생을 오래 했습니다. 아버지와 어머니 그리고 저와 자매 4명 모두 피폭 후유증으로 고통받았습니다. 돌아올 반응이 두려워 주변에 피폭당했다고 말하지도 못했습니다. 우리 자매들의 자녀도 원폭 후유증으로 의심되는 증세를 보이고 고생하다가 죽은 조카도 몇이 있습니다. 저는 전쟁을 일으킨 일본, 특히 히로시마와 나가사키에 원폭을 투하한 미국의 야만스러운 야욕이 한없이 원망스럽습니다. 원폭 투하로 한국인이 7만 명이나 피폭당하고 그중에서 4만 명 이상 죽었습니다. 미국에게 원폭 투하 책임을 묻고 사죄를 받고 싶습니다. 더욱이 대량 살상의 무기인 핵 피해를 당해본 저로서는 전 세계의 핵무기 금지를 부르짖고 아우성치고 싶습니다. 핵전쟁의 끝은 꼭 인류의 멸망입니다. 세계 평화를 갈망하며 우리 후손 대대로 핵무기 없는 평화로운 세상을 물려주는 것이 살아남은 한국 피폭자인 저로서는 책무라고 생각합니다. 핵을 전쟁에 쓴다는 것은 불복이라고 낙인을 꼭 찍어야 합니다. 올해로 제 나이 벌써 92세입니다. 80년간 피폭으로 인해 부모님과 형제 자매를 일찍 떠나보낸 슬픔, 고통, 억울함, 분함 속에 살아왔습니다. 그리고 이제는 이 자식들까지 질병과 정신적 고통을 겪는 것을 보니 도저히 제가 입을 다물고 있어서는 안 되겠다고 생각을 합니다. 핵무기를 투하한 미국은 한국 원폭 피해자와 그 후손들에게 책임을 인정하고 사죄하고 꼭 배상을 해야 합니다. 얼마 남지 않은 생에 꼭 이 말을 하고 가는 것이 1세로서 원폭 2세, 3세에게 조금이나마 도리를 다하는 것이라 생각합니다. 그래서 저는 1945년 미국의 불법적인 원폭 투하 책임을 묻기 위한 2026년 원폭 국제민중법정의 원고로 참여하게 되었습니다. 이 법정을 통해 우리의 후손들이 그리고 젊은이들이 전쟁 없고 핵무기 없는 세상에서 살게 되기를 간절히 바랍니다. 한국 원폭 피해자 문제에 많은 관심을 가져주시기를 세계 만방에 호소드립니다. 함께 핵무기가 없는 평화를 모두 마음이 하나가 되어 만들어 갑시다. 감사합니다.
Thank you. Thank you so much to Ms. Jung-soon for sharing her powerful testimony. It is an honor to have you part of this conference today and for reminding everybody of the important historical context and what we must do moving forward. Thank you. We now have the honor to have Mr. Michael Jin, who is a professor of Global Asian Studies and History at the University of Illinois, Chicago. And he is a member of the International Organizing Committee for the Tribunal. He has documented the history of Korean atomic bomb victims' struggle for redress and reparations, which has been published in the American Historical Review and other scholarly venues. Floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and good morning, everyone, and good evening to my friends in Korea and Japan and elsewhere around the world. I'm grateful to Mr. Yanni and Pathways to Peace for including the voices of Korean atomic bomb survivors and for offering this beautiful opportunity for collaboration in our common struggle for a nuclear-free world. As you heard from the video testimony, Ms. Park Jung-soon and other Korean atomic bomb survivors will serve as plaintiffs at the upcoming International People's Tribunal on the 1945 U.S. atomic bombings, which will take place in New York City in November of next year. I have been documenting the experiences of Korean atomic bomb victims in the historical context of war, colonialism, nuclear proliferation, and the ongoing global struggle for nuclear disarmament. As you heard from Ms. Park, she was born to factory workers from Korea who had migrated to Nagasaki, Japan. From 1910 to 1945, the period in which Korea was under Japanese colonial rule, Korea served as an important source of migrants and conscripted laborers. And by 1945, the number of Koreans in Japan had reached 2 million, and many of them were forced into heavy labor in mines, munitions plants, and shipping yards throughout Japan, and they were subject to brutal working conditions and social discrimination. Ms. Park's family were among 100,000 Koreans who were trapped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki when the US military dropped the atomic bombs in August 1945. Between 40,000 and 50,000 of them survived, and most of them repatriated to South Korea after the war, while some remained in Japan, and some migrated to the United States and other parts of the Korean diaspora. Today, less than 2,000 of the survivors are still alive in South Korea. For many decades after the war, the Korean atomic bomb survivors were unrecognized and excluded from the post-war state regime of compensatory justice and reparations in Japan, South Korea, and the United States. Atomic bomb survivors' voices were often suppressed in South Korea, as the country has remained as a critical Cold War outpost under the US nuclear umbrella in the Pacific. Their stories challenge the narrative of the atomic bomb as liberator that ended the brutal war and delivered Koreans from Japanese imperial rule. And there are also thousands of second-generation and third-generation survivors, those who were born to the Korean atomic bomb survivors after the war. And like their parents and grandparents who had returned from Hiroshima and Nagasaki, many second-generation survivors and their children are suffering from radiation illnesses and social ostracization. In recent years, the second-generation survivors in South Korea have emerged as the leading voices for redress on behalf of all victims of the US nuclear violence. Ms. Park and Korean survivors like her have always found themselves at the crossroads of these complex and tragic colonial, inter-imperial, and intergenerational aspects of the atomic bomb victims' experiences. But they have refused to remain silent. When governments have failed to recognize them and compensate them, and when even their own communities have ostracized them, they have stepped forward to advocate for their rights and the rights of other victims of nuclear violence around the world, to be recognized, to be redressed, to receive proper medical care for radiation illnesses, and to hold the perpetrators of nuclear violence and colonial violence accountable for the incalculable human, material, social, environmental, and moral damage. And this struggle and collective effort led by survivors like Ms. Park and civic organizations and activists in South Korea and elsewhere have culminated in the International People's Tribunal on the US atomic bombings, which will take place in New York next year. Since 2020, atomic bomb survivors, scholars, researchers, and activists have conducted over 40 seminars in preparation for the tribunal. As of today, 190 individuals and organizations, such as Japan Council Against Atomic and Hydrogen Bombs, Peace Action, Veterans for Peace, International Initiative for Peace, International Association of Lawyers Against Nuclear Arms, just to name a few, are participating as members of our preparation committee. The A-Bomb Tribunal aims to establish the illegality of the U.S. atomic bombings in 1945 to secure the basis for condemning all nuclear threats and use as illegal today. Leading legal scholars in the fields of human rights and international law from the United States and elsewhere will serve as presiding judges at the tribunal to hold the United States responsible for the deployment of atomic bombs in 1945. The International People's Tribunal condemns the possession, use, and threat of nuclear weapons by nuclear-armed states, and we seek to contribute to denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and a nuclear-free world. The organizers and volunteers in South Korea and the United States, led by the members of the Solidarity for Peace and Reunification of Korea, are working tirelessly to prepare for and to spread the word about the tribunal. We ask you and your organization to join our effort and become our partner to help raise awareness about the People's Tribunal. Join us, and please see the link in the chat window to visit our website and to contact us with your questions and your insights. We look forward to working with you for the realization of a more just and nuclear-free world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing more information about the upcoming tribunal. And I do hope that all the organizations here will look into it and partner with everybody who's organizing it. It is a very important opportunity to secure justice for the victim survivors and to make progress for nuclear disarmament. And so now I have the honor to introduce His Excellency, the Deputy Ambassador Andreas Lovold from the Permanent Mission of Norway to the United Nations. Ambassador has taken his post as Ambassador and Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations on August 14, 2023. Prior to his current position, he served as Director for the Section for Coordination of the UN Security Council Affairs, which was temporarily established for the 2021-2022 period, when Norway was an elected member of the UN Security Council. Ambassador Lovold is a career diplomat and has served in the Norwegian Ministry of Foreign Affairs since 2024. In addition to the UN, the multilateral affairs, his regional expertise is related to Afghanistan and the Middle East. Ambassador Lovold has previously served as a diplomat at the Mission of Norway to the UN in New York from 2009 to 2013, and at the Norwegian Embassy in Kabul from 2006 to 2009. He was a Deputy Director of the Section for the Middle East and North Africa from 2017 to 2020, and he has served for the UN in Afghanistan as head of the electoral team. Ambassador Lovold holds an MSc in International Relations from London School of Economics and a Bachelor of Political Science and History from the University of Oslo, where he also pursued postgraduate level studies. Ambassador Lovold, it is an honor to have you speak here today. The floor is yours.
Thanks. Thanks a lot, Renor. Can you hear me? Perfect. Oh, thank you, Renor, and to you, Ms. Gabriel, and not the least to Pathways to Peace for not only for hosting but for organizing this particular event, but also for the very substantive and important work you do. And I think speaking after Ms. Park, delivering a very forceful and strong testimony to all of us, it's of course very hard, but it's also very important because it reminds us all about not only the short-term impact of the devastation and humanitarian long-term or the consequences, but also the long-term impact, which we learned about from her testimony. Because this event really takes place against a very dark backdrop, the 80th anniversary of the Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bombings. In this case, let me be very clear. Norway's goal is a world free of nuclear weapons. Any use of nuclear weapons would have catastrophic global consequences for people, the environment, and the nature, etc., as we just heard. Only a world free of nuclear weapons will eliminate this risk completely. The humanitarian perspective, as we know, has a strong impact on the debate of nuclear weapons, and it is essential because the strongest imperative for nuclear disarmament stems precisely from the devastating humanitarian consequences that nuclear war would entail. And as we also heard from Ms. Park, the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of nuclear weapons will affect us all. It is a strong argument for both de-escalation, risk reduction, and disarmament, and it underpins the strong norm against their use. That is why Norway wants to contribute to a deeper fact-based recognition of what will happen if nuclear weapons are used. We need to challenge the purely and narrow security-oriented perspective that often characterizes the nuclear weapons discourse. In the past decade, fundamental changes in the global security landscape have taken place. Meanwhile, the humanitarian perspective has become more prominent in the international disarmament debate. Knowledge of the humanitarian consequences of nuclear weapons has increased considerably and continues to grow. Last year, the UNGA decided to establish a scientific panel to investigate the consequences of nuclear weapon or of nuclear war. Norway was an early co-sponsor for this resolution, and we will support the panel financially. To understand the Norwegian perspective on nuclear disarmament, it is important to keep three key factors in mind. So let me just briefly mention them to elaborate or give a perspective on where we come from when I speak as a Norwegian diplomat. First, our geography. In the high north, we share a border with Russia, and a considerable part of Russia's arsenal of nuclear weapons are based at the Kola Peninsula, just 100 kilometers from our border. The fear of any nuclear weapons use or nuclear-related accident from Russian submarines is very present among the Norwegian public. Second, we are among the founding members of NATO, and Norway's goal is a world free of nuclear weapons. But at the same time, as long as nuclear weapons exist, NATO will remain a nuclear alliance. While respecting, there are varied views on this in this forum. Third, as a relatively small state in international affairs, Norway has a strong humanitarian profile, which has been at the core of our foreign policy over the past decades. Nuclear disarmament has also been a policy priority for Norway since the early 1950s and the early the stages of the Cold War. Our main priority remains to work for the full implementation of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, the NPT. And our work on humanitarian consequences is strongly inspired by the NPT Treaty, which you know refers to the devastation that would be visited upon all mankind by nuclear war. And also, of course, the NPT Review Conference from 2010, which expressed very clearly deep concern at the catastrophic humanitarian consequences of any use of nuclear weapons. While we acknowledge that nuclear weapons are strategic in their character, the humanitarian consequences of nuclear weapons use would be catastrophic. This motivated Norway to host the first international conference on humanitarian impact of nuclear weapons in 2013. But since 2013, there has been a deeply worrying increased pressure on disarmament and the non-proliferation regimes. disinformation, obstructionism, and blatant breaches of conventions undermine confidence in those regimes. Especially over the past years, the risks associated with nuclear weapons have increased considerably. The risk of proliferation and use of nuclear weapons is significantly higher now than it has been for many years. Work on nuclear risk reduction, arms control, and non-proliferation has become therefore even more crucial. The NPT needs our support more than ever. At the same time, the space for multilateral dialogue, cooperation, international cooperation, and agreement on disarmament issues has narrowed significantly. So in many ways, these are dark times, but there is also a light on the horizon, and I think that's particularly a role for us as diplomats, but also for US civil society and for us to work together. And as we know, the US president has signaled he wants arms control talks with both Russia and China, and we see this as a positive signal. For Norway, I will say that we both hope, but we also believe, and we are convinced, that humanitarian initiatives gradually will contribute to a change in attitudes, which over time will pave the way for progress on this file. In these efforts, empowering civil society and policymakers to co-create a world free of nuclear weapons through education, advocacy, and promotion of nuclear disarmament is more important than ever. And with those words, I really wish you all the best in your very significant efforts. And again, thank you for organizing this event and inviting me to speak. Thank you a lot.
Thank you, Ambassador, for sharing more about the humanitarian efforts that Norway has done, especially to recognize the humanitarian impact of nuclear weapons. We really appreciate that. It's always good to have voices from governments to speak directly on the work that they're doing. And I think that it's very important for states that are part of these NATO nuclear alliances to still speak and advocate for the humanitarian impact of nuclear weapons to be recognized. So thank you. We are honored to now have Mayor Matsui Kazumi, who is the mayor of Hiroshima, Japan. He was elected as the mayor of Hiroshima in 2011, and he now serves as the president of Mayors for Peace, an organization that brings nearly 10,000 cities across the globe with the goal of creating a world without nuclear weapons. While in office, he has been vocal about the abolition of nuclear weapons and the need for education about their humanitarian impact. He began working at Japan's Ministry of Labor in 1976 and became Secretary General of the Embassy of Japan to the United Kingdom from 1989 to 1992. He served in different positions in the same ministry, in the Workers' Division of the Office of Women's Labor and the Division of Professional Inclusion Measures for Seniors in the Employment Office. In 2002, he became Director of the General Coordination Division of the Minister's Secretariat of the Deputy Minister of International Affairs, and in 2006, Representative of Japan to the Board of Directors of the International Labor Organization. In 2008, he was also appointed General Manager of the Secretariat of the Central Committee of Professional Relations. We are honored to have a video presentation from the Mayor of Hiroshima.
Good morning, everyone. 平和市長会議会長を務めている広島市長の松井一美です。Pathways to Peace の主催により、人道のための核軍縮をテーマとするオンライン会議が開催されるにあたり、一言ご挨拶を申し上げます。 現下の国際情勢は核保有国において核兵器の近代化や増強が図られるなど核兵器使用のリスクが高まっています。こうした武力行使ではなく国家間の問題は対話によって平和的な解決を図るべきであり、現在の状況について大変憂慮しています。このような状況においては市民社会が決意と希望を胸に心を一つにして行動を起こし、為政者に外交政策の転換を促すことが重要となります。そうした意味で本日皆様が80年前に起きた悲惨な出来事に思いを馳せるとともに、核兵器の非人道性や平和教育、政府と都市の役割など核軍縮について議論を行うことは誠に意義深く、その取り組みに対し深く敬意を表します。本日ご参加の皆様には核兵器の廃絶とその先にある世界恒久平和の実現に向け、世界の約8500の都市が加盟する平和都市ネットワークへと発展した平和首長会議とともに力を尽くし行動してくださることを心から期待しています。終わりに本会議のご成功とご参会の皆様の今後ますますのご健勝とご多幸を心より記念いたしまして、私のご挨拶とさせていただきます。Thank you very much.
Thank you so much to the mayor for presenting and providing this video message. It has been an honor to work with the mayor's office and Mayors for Peace in our extensive work with all of the mayors in Albania. So we thank you so much. And now I'd like to bring the floor back to Hezekiah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Renor. And thank you to all of our amazing speakers. We are just so very touched and honored to have had this experience with all of you together. And so as we wind down our time together, I think it's very important that we continue to listen to the stories, continue to listen with our hearts open to the concerns that are being brought before us by survivors and others, and that we not move to powerlessness. Instead, we move into action. And so as we remember and lift up that sacred activision of our time is love, as we remember that hope is an act of rebellion, and as we lift up what we've heard as a call for unity, a call for peace, a call for solidarity, a call to action. We hope that what you've heard here, that you carry that forward in that action for that nuclear-free world that we envision, each of us and all of us together. That is our hope. And at Pathways to Peace, we always say to remember, regardless of your background, regardless of where you came from, what your work is, what your family history is, what your lifestyle is, regardless of all of that, you are a pathway to peace. So reach out from here into your own communities, into your own relationships. Lift up this information and bring it forward into action in whatever way works and fits for you. We hope that you will attend some of the other events that we've put in the chat that are provided by our sister organizations. We all work in collaboration for the end of nuclear weapons and that nuclear-free world. So again, in closing, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening with open hearts and minds. Thank you, Renor, for being the brilliant person you are and for your deep passion and commitment that you bring into our work at Pathways to Peace. And we are going to close now, but we're going to bring back that beautiful music by our beloved Gary Malcolm that you can all depart with. So thank you, thank you, thank you.